life, your term show. Okay, I am here with Victoria Suen.
Hey.
Rockstar member extraordinaire, architect extraordinaire. I feel like investor extraordinaire. I feel like you wear a lot of hats. Professor extraordinaire.
Yes. Yeah. I do a lot of different things. Maybe too many. So.
Viral YouTuber now, superstar.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was great shooting the video with you, and we definitely have to shoot more content. I guess people liked it if we're getting the views.
That's our definition of a viral video is 13,000 views. What did we get? That's viral for us. That's like a top 10 video.
Okay, so we got to beat that record.
We got to beat that. Yeah, we just set the bar. So we have more videos coming out too.
Yeah,
we already have like 2 in the works.
We just need the construction. Actually, one of them, we could get it's done. So I could get you the final footage of it, and then we could release it.
Okay, which one was that? The duplex?
Yeah, exactly.
The duplex. Okay. So I met up with you. I was with Aiden. We were shooting video in Toronto. Yeah. What neighborhood were we in again?
Technically, if you want to be more specific, it was Oakwood Village, that kind of area. We're just always calling it Midtown.
Midtown,
because,
okay.
Anything around, we're like St. Clair to Eglinton, kind of like, for those of you who know Toronto. So not like at the core of Toronto, which I consider like Bloor and below towards like downtown. We're a little bit north of that. So I'd say Midtown, but more specifically, we're around like Oakwood Village. Yeah.
Okay. And we were at 2 different single family home to 4-plex conversions plus a garden suite future 5th unit in the back of both of those houses. One was completed. One is in the middle of still being completed, which we need to go back and shoot footage at. Yeah. And then we saw a duplex conversion that you were working on with a client. And did we see something else? No.
There's three projects, I think.
3 projects. Yeah. So what are you up to? What are you doing in Toronto? Tell me about what you're doing. Tell the audience what you're doing there.
Yeah. So I guess since I was last on the podcast, we were chatting about it like 3.5 years ago. Really doubled down on the architecture business. So with my practice, BuildX Design, we help a lot of people with multiplexes, ADUs, and specifically a lot of our projects right now are in Toronto because of, I think the numbers are just working a lot better, and like prices have come down. The market's kind of not done so well when it comes to like condos. Everybody knows about that, but even single family homes, you know, the ones that where investors look at, they need renovations, so end users don't really want to kind of buy them. So, you know, getting some solid deals there, and then investors are looking to turn those into duplexes, triplexes, 4plexes, possible garden suite or laneway house at the back. So as of right, we're allowed 4+1, so 5 units. And we were touring a lot of those projects. So yeah, that's a lot of what we're doing.
And this is a viable investment strategy in Toronto?
Yes, for sure. Like you're able to buy properties, you know, anywhere from like 800,000 to, let's say, you know, like more of the core Toronto, you're closer to like 1.5 or something. But, you know, under $1 million, most investors are probably looking at like buying at, let's say, $1 million and then putting a bunch of renovation money in it and then refinancing after. You know, a lot of the properties I'm looking at, they're getting over $10,000 in rent. You know, the appraisal values are up there. So if not a full BRRRR, we call it, right? Like a full refinance and taking out all your money, then close to it, which is kind of incredible in Toronto, right? Like that's not something we would have expected before. It would have been, say, a Niagara or Hamilton, like not like the city of Toronto. So if you're able to achieve that, that's like a great forever hold, like for your family, right? Like that wealth generation.
That's wild. I can't believe the numbers work on those. And even just the $800,000 purchase price is shocking to me. Like I don't know too much about Toronto real estate, to be frank. I don't pay attention to it because I've always played in kind of the outside markets. Yeah. Like greater Golden Horseshoe area. For me, my personal investing has been St. Catharines, but I'm more familiar with like Hamilton, St. Catharines, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So in Toronto, to get a property for $800,000, first of all, is shocking. Second of all, I can't believe the appraisal value comes in, that they're actually pulling all their money out of the project in today's market.
Yeah, potentially. You know, like if you're strategic with your renos, if you're maybe managing some of the renos yourself, you know, your reno costs will come down. So I'm looking at deals where you can buy at $800,000-$900,000, put in $150,000, $200K in renos, then your refinance values, you know, 1.2 or, you know, around that range. So you're getting close, if not like a full return on your money. Like
that's for a duplex?
That's a triplex. Yeah, triplex. Most people in Toronto are looking at triplex and above.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Triplex and above. Why? Just the numbers work out better?
Yeah, exactly. The more rent you're pulling in, and more units tend to have like a higher like rent ratio.
And what types of homes are they doing these on?
All types, really. So, 2-story semis, detached houses too. That'd be the easiest scenario. Like you have a 2-story building with a basement. Each level is a unit.
Yeah.
And a classic example in Toronto, they'd all be like 1-bedroom units. So then, there's that scenario. And then a lot of people are also looking at what we call top-ups. So building another story on top. So like a 2-story home, you can easily fit a third story on top. While you're at it, you might extend the back of your house. So then you'll do a back addition plus another story on top. And then convert those into 3 or 4 units. And then if you have a good sized yard, then you can add the 5th unit as a garden suite.
Wow. I guess you need a bigger bankroll for some of those projects.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest limitation. It's like, do you have the capital to...
Because what would you be putting in, like 400, 500 grand for some of these bigger conversions to a 4 or 5-plex?
Yeah, I would say so. Like, you're buying at $1 million. You need 200,000 for the down payment, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Bit more for closing costs. Let's say like $50K for closing costs. Toronto, unfortunately, has the double land transfer. So that's like one of the hits. And then, the renos, depending on the extent, if you're looking at like a 4-plex, something like bigger like that, you're probably looking at least 400,000 to 500,000 on renovations.
Wow. I can't believe the numbers work.
Yeah.
During COVID, were investors doing this as well?
Not so much. Like, I think the zoning bylaws in Toronto, this multiplex thing that is allowing for 3 or 4 units is fairly new. It passed in 2023. Mm-hmm. So like when I was last on the podcast, this didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And then
I feel like this is a recent phenomenon, all this Toronto investing action.
Yeah. It's pretty new. So like the allowance of 3 to 4 units in Toronto as of right. So that's anywhere, any property.
So it's like pre-approved if there's certain requirements that are that you have to stick with, but if those requirements are in place, you're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Your land is allowed to have 3 or 4 units. Whether you can achieve the building code, that's another question. But just like the zoning allows for 3 or 4 units, so that part's great.
And you still need to get a permit from the city to actually go ahead with it, though.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. But you don't need a rezone. So prior to, you're only allowed 2 units. If you wanted to do 3 or 4 units, you weren't allowed. It's not like a minor variance. It's not like, oh, can I get like permission? And that takes a couple months. It would actually require a rezone, which is its own kind of process, which I wouldn't recommend because typically that's what condo developers do, right? Like to get 100 plus units. It's like that kind of process.
Expensive and difficult.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like with this new zoning that came in place in 2023, it unlocked all these single family neighborhoods in the same way that, I forget all the bill numbers, but like the bill that unlocked duplexes everywhere, like 10 plus years ago.
Yeah.
Now it's like 4-plexes everywhere. So like the same thing that happened, I would say 10 years ago is going to happen now with this new policy. And It's happening across multiple cities, not just Toronto. Like Mississauga allows for 4-plexes. Peterborough recently changed their bylaw to allow for 4-plexes. So like you can think about like it's a land play, right? Like without you needing to do anything. Like developers do this. They rezone their land, so then they're now allowed more units. Now their land is more valuable. But you think about this, in the city doing this, like they've unlocked value for you if you own that property without you doing anything. Mm-hmm. So if it went from single family to 4-plex, technically it's like they 4x your value in just the land itself. Whether you act upon it, that's another thing. But that's where I think there's great opportunity. If you're buying a property, $800,000 to $1 million, I think that's being valued at like what the property is worth as a single family home. Mm-hmm. So if you're buying at the value of a single family home, but you get the possibility of building a 4-plex, 5 units, like that's great leverage that you have as an investor.
Yeah, they've taken care of the zoning, I guess, for you.
Exactly, yeah.
And can neighbors say anything? They have no right to push back against this.
No. So a lot of the applications we're helping with, we're doing as of right. So we're not asking for any variances. We're not subject to any neighborhood opinion. It's just kind of we go straight for building permit. Mm-hmm. If they complain, that's unfortunate because they don't have a say in it.
Yeah, they don't have a right. You have a right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's almost shocking that this has been allowed.
Yeah.
Just given how governments sometimes operate, it's pretty cool that it is allowed. Because look how much value it unlocks. Look how much more housing it unlocks.
Yeah, like I think it's like a double-edged sword in some ways. Like when it comes to the planning perspective, it makes a lot of sense, right? Like planning generally doesn't favor like sprawl, right? So that's what happened in a lot of these suburban neighborhoods around Toronto, right? Mississauga, Milton, Oakville, like all these single-family neighborhoods that you buy this place and then say commute into the city. And then it creates a lot of gridlock because everybody relies on the car and then needs a lot of like infrastructure because of the way we've sprawled, right?
I actually don't think GTA traffic's that bad.
Really? That I don't know who would agree with you there, but you must not drive because it's horrible. It's got
I don't leave Oakville on weeknights.
That's the key for not hating
100%.
traffic. You guys stay in place. You don't leave. You don't go anywhere. But so that's the thing. Like when in the planning perspective, densifying neighborhoods is ideal because you already have existing infrastructure. You're just densifying and kind of using the existing infrastructure that you have. I guess in theory, obviously needs some upgrades, as opposed to sprawling out and then requiring more roads and more servicing. And that requires, even more, say, money on the city's side to like service all this additional land. So it makes a lot of sense. I guess on the other hand, then you have the argument like, can the infrastructure support all this new housing? And what does that mean for services or like community centers and hospitals? Like, can they service like this many more people? What does that do for the existing neighborhood? Like people who bought in these single family neighborhoods, a lot of times there'll be objection. It's like, oh, like now we're adding like 4 times the people. I didn't want this. And those kind of conversation, which is like, it's like, well, boo-hoo, right? Like you got lucky that you got to buy in a time that allowed for this, but like, what about everybody else, right? So then that becomes like a class conversation and that's its own can of worms. But yeah, here we are. Right?
And even generational, right?
For sure, yeah.
Wow, okay. The numbers aren't even that bad. Like it's not even that unaccessible if you're buying at 800 and especially for something like a duplex or triplex conversion. It's pretty wild. Yeah, and I feel like Toronto with all the different property types and locations and areas, I just feel like there must be so much opportunity to unlock with all of that variety as opposed to other cities with more suburban homes. There's just so many different property types and locations and avenues you can take with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I find like investors now are like kind of finding the pockets that they like and then like finding the types of homes that they like to kind of buy, convert or build and kind of sticking to that like niche. So there's a lot of opportunity. You buy a house in Scarborough, it's going to be a lot different than one like in the downtown core. Like the downtown core will have like narrower lots and they'll be like skinnier and then maybe you're more building up than building out. Versus like a Scarborough, you have more of land, wider, maybe a bungalow. So maybe even if you're building up, you're building out more, right? And do you prefer that or do you want to be more like closer to the core? People have different preferences in terms of like the neighborhood and who they want to rent to. Is it like more young professionals or is it like families? So yeah, even like within Toronto, there's a lot of kind of niches you could get into and then you could have specific like expertise in that.
Yeah. How did you get into this yourself, becoming a designer for a lot of these investors?
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to like the rockstar story of like I was becoming an architect and then I was investing in real estate.
Hanging drywall?
Yeah, hanging drywall. Yeah. I was talking about, I shouldn't have been doing that, but I love building. So like I still like using my tools. I think for a lot of investors, they say like you should sell your tools so that you don't feel the urge to like do things. But anyways, that's like a separate conversation. But I was doing a lot of this like investing and conversion stuff for myself. And then I think naturally other investors would kind of approach me and be like, oh, is that something that you can help with? Do you like serve this area? And then I'd help do the drawings for them. And then ultimately I became a licensed architect and then I started my own practice. And I think I find myself in this interesting intersection of like, I can be a designer and architect and have my creative hat on, but then I can, look at the numbers and really talk about it as like an investor would. I think one of the best compliments, I was talking about a deal with somebody, and then I was telling them like, okay, this is what you buy it at, this is what you need, this is your renovation cost, this is the cap rate, and this is what you're going to get at the end. And they're like, wait a second, are you an architect, or you don't sound like one? So are you a developer? Like, what are you pitching me here? I was like, oh, no, I am an architect. But like, I'm just talking in your language.
Yeah,
so that,
that's
like,
cool.
That this is what you care about, right? And then I think that moment kind of put things in perspective. I was like, oh, okay, like I think I just know how to live in these two worlds, right? Like the creative architecture world, and then also like the real estate and investing world. And I think that's how the majority of our practice has kind of been built upon. It's just like helping a lot of investors in the projects that I was diving into myself.
Yeah. Has your recent work in these Toronto rentals influenced your own investing? Have you done any of these for yourself? Are you looking at potentially doing them?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking at potentially doing them. Yeah, I haven't done one specifically for myself, but like I think the more I'm helping investors with these projects, I'm like, I really need to dive into this myself, But I think in some ways it's been a good time for my business, and we've been busy, so I haven't been able to put as much time into my own real estate investments, but definitely look into it for myself. Yeah.
So at what point did you jump the ship and start your own thing? I guess, did you have it, I'm sure you had it started on the side before jumping into it full time. How were you able to make that transition?
Yeah, so I think, where was I? So at the end of 2021, like I had all my hours done, all my education and all of that. So it was really a matter of like registering my license. And one of the things with being an architect, and that might be a little bit different than a BCIN designer, is like there's a very defined threshold of like you work for this practice or you work with that practice, and part of it is like liability. So I was kind of at this kind of fork in the road. I was like, okay, it's called moonlighting, right? Like if you're kind of working on the side, and I had my BCIN. I was like, but I've worked all this time, like over 10 years to get my architect's license. But I know if I register it, I'm no longer allowed to work for somebody else and practice myself. It's either or, because there can't be any confusion of like, if I'm doing a project, is it for this practice or that practice? Is it for my practice or this employer that I'm working at? Right?
Really?
Yeah.
Why does that matter?
The liability, right? Like if I do my own project under my own practice, and then some like shit hits the fan, somebody wants to like sue me, let's say, then are they suing me, or am I related to this other architecture firm? Are they involved? And then it's like messy, right? Okay. So it's very defined, in my opinion, like when it comes to like the Architects Act. So I was kind of the fork in the road, like, do I do my own thing and I essentially have to like fully jump in? I can't like kind of half do it and work at this other company. And ultimately I was just thinking about like, what is my next step? Like, do I grow this in this like corporate ladder and do that? Or, am I just going to like take the leap and start my own thing? And yeah, I decided I'm going to take the leap and do it and see where that goes. Because worst case scenario, I have to work for someone else as an architect. Yeah. And to me at the time, I was like, yeah, that's simple enough. Like I could always go back to that. Yeah. But I just had this.
You're back to square one, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I just always wanted to do something like entrepreneurial. I think I always knew that I wanted to do my like own thing. I always enjoyed like the real estate investment stuff. So I think that was the other aspect. Is like it was very difficult to find an architecture firm that liked building, liked investing. Like it was always something I had to like compartmentalize and do on the side. And it's like, oh, this is me in the architecture world, and then this is me like real estate investing. But I could never do it together because most architects don't think that way or don't do projects like that. Yeah. So this was an opportunity for me to start my own thing, but also like do projects that I could combine both worlds. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. You're combining multi-skills, which puts you definitely in your own niche. And they say the riches are in the niches, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So an investor is way more inclined to work with somebody that speaks their language as opposed to an architect that might not understand what that end unit will look like, how it'll rent out, what potential issues there could be between tenants in that type of setup, what the rules at the landlord tenant board are, what cap rates are, what you're looking for out of the investment overall. You're just speaking an entirely different language, right? Hey everyone, I wanted to quickly share my personal journey with the Rockstar Inner Circle. I joined Rockstar when I was 23 years old because I wanted to learn how to invest in real estate and I was looking for the right people to guide me. What I didn't expect was how much more the Inner Circle would give me. It's not just about investing, it's about being a part of a community that is genuinely invested in each other's success. I've learned so much here, from real estate strategies to understanding the economy, personal finance, and how the whole money system works. I've gained the knowledge to build my own business, create my own assets, and leverage the biggest trends in the world. But more than that, it's the growth mindset and personal development that have transformed how I approach life and investing. Having a community of like-minded people to share wisdom, experiences, and lessons with has been invaluable. From finding tenants and growing a real estate portfolio to designing the life you want, it's been a game changer. Being part of the Inner Circle has completely changed my perspective on money and life. The insights I've gained have helped me make smarter decisions, and I'm now way more confident in my financial future. If you're ready to level up your investing, mindset, and your life, I can't recommend the Rockstar Inner Circle enough. It's not just a membership, it's an opportunity to design the life you want. Thanks for letting me share this with you, and I hope to see you in the Inner Circle soon. If you're curious to learn more, feel free to check out rockstarinnercircle.com/get-started for free resources and see if it's the right fit for you. Now back to the show.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I just know how to, like, there's a time and place for both. Like, it's not that I don't believe in good design or anything. It's just like, those are not the features I'm selling you on, right? Like, it's going to be a good design. At least I hope so, no matter what. It's just, again, like, your focus is on making money, you're making a return on your investment. Mm-hmm. So if that is from good design, I'm going to definitely integrate that. But it's not, the feature that I'm kind of like selling or kind of.
Yeah, because I have seen some of your work that's like creative places of business, kind of creative studio type places. And that's, I guess, where you get to scratch that creative builder itch. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, okay, like we talked about, or you've seen Upgrade Labs maybe in Oakville. So
I haven't, but I want to go.
Okay,
I've heard it's beautiful.
Yeah. So like that's one that's a little bit more creative, where like there's a brand, and they have like a brand identity, incorporating that into the space, and that's important. So it's not about like squeezing every inch and that kind of thing. It's about like the overall experience and how does that kind of like become a space that represents their brand, and that part is exciting. But obviously, they have different objectives, and we can, again, like kind of scratch that itch when it comes to like the creativity side. So yeah, it ultimately comes down to, I guess we believe, like understanding the client's goals and objectives and like being able to achieve that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess you had momentum going with already doing your own projects before hitting that fork in the road, and you had to decide one or the other. So you had some momentum going. So were you able to just step into that momentum and grow from there? And how did you grow? Was it referral based? Was it through your own marketing? Like, how did you actually get the ball rolling enough where you could bring in enough income to say, okay, not only am I making this work, I'm going to grow?
Yeah. So for a period, I actually worked at a tech company. I was like their in-house architect. So I had my own practice and then just helping this tech company. So that kind of helped a little bit with some stability. But overall, like to answer your question, a lot of it is just referrals, a lot of just like being part of different real estate groups like Rockstar. And it's just slowly getting my name out there. But like I think over time, like Tom talks about this a lot, about like building your systems and like setting up marketing. Mm-hmm. I don't think I have a proper marketing system quite yet. I think that'd be the goal. But a lot of it's just from like social media and like doing a lot of networking. Yeah.
It's almost weird how referrals work, eh? Like word just gets out and then the phone starts ringing.
Yeah.
Like it's always fascinated me how that kind of happens, because it's not like you can really architect it. Mm-hmm. It's just you do one job at a time and word spreads. Maybe you casually mention it here and there, but like you're not really marketing yourself. It's just, I guess, through proof of work, proof of doing a good job. Yeah. The word kind of gets out. Like I've found that even with my little tenant placement stuff, it's just, You fill one property, okay, and then all of a sudden someone else is calling you, and then all of a sudden someone else is calling you. And it gets to a point where you can reliably expect those phone calls on a frequent enough basis. And that's just always fascinated me, like how it kind of just organically grows.
Yeah, and in some ways, like it's definitely interesting. But the other hand, I think about like, and maybe it's because like I'm a newer business, but I always think about like, because it's not a systematized thing, couldn't one day it just the calls stop coming?
Just stop coming.
Yeah, you're like,
that's what I think too. Yeah,
but then it never does.
Yeah,
and still in the back of my mind, I'm like, what if it stops?
Exactly. And then that's where the marketing systems come in. And then also, if you do want to build a legitimate scaled business and start removing parts of yourself out of that business more and more, you need those systems in place, right, to bring in customers.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, I think that myself. I'm like, well, what if just people stop calling, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you got to make hay while the sun's shining and like take on the work while you got it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's like the trap that a lot of entrepreneurs fall into.
Yeah.
But I think you kind of need to get out of your own head and, like you said, like build your system so that like if the phone stops ringing, even though it won't, like you have something else to back onto. You have an actual like system that you can lean on.
Yeah. You just need those like years of experience to be like, no, the phone's going to ring.
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to ring, but I don't know what it's going to be for, but that phone's going to ring.
Yeah. It's just like a totally different mindset. Like I still feel like half my brain is in the, 9 to 5 paycheck world. And I'm like, when's that next paycheck coming? Like it in theory, it seems more reliable to like rely on a paycheck versus like being an entrepreneur. You have to like go and get it or get like the phone call to like, and then pitch them the deal. But I think it's ingrained, at least in me, it's ingrained in my mind so much that it takes quite a while to like shift the way you think.
Mm-hmm. So you said in theory, it's less risky. What have you actually found in practice?
In practice, like business is way better. Like if you, like now, like if you want to work harder, you can get another deal, right? Like you can get another job, right? Like you get another job or do another project for your company you're working at, and they're not going to raise your salary, or they might raise your salary by whatever they feel like that year, depending on how they're doing. Versus like, if again, like you want to make more money, you could get another project, you can work on your marketing systems, build out your company, you'll get a return on that. So in theory the paycheck is more stable, but in reality entrepreneurship is more reliable because you can see the direct efforts oftentimes from like the work that you're putting in. And if you're not, you have to fix it because something's going wrong, and then once you fix it, then you'll get the results. So
you prefer this lifestyle over a salaried employee, or it's just better?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Or
like,
it's just better money at least.
It's just the different. Like I guess I wouldn't even think of it from like a financial perspective. I think I've always thought like doing my own thing was just suited to the way I am. Like I love learning new things and learning a new skill, trying this out, like learning about business. I think a lot of creatives get into business because if you like, I don't know if you've read The E-Myth.
I haven't, but it's on my list.
Okay, yeah. One of the lines that really resonated with me is, people get an entrepreneurial seizure. So you just wake up one day and you're like, I love baking. I'm going to start a bakery, But what makes a good baker doesn't make a good business owner of a bakery. So a lot of, say, creatives are good at like doing the thing, but aren't necessarily good business owners. But for me, like I do love architecture, I do love design, but I think for me, I love business building even more. So the process of building this business out is really enjoyable for me. And it's not just about like, oh, I want to do this so then I can get back to like the drafting table and like draw my house, like I enjoy actually the full process.
Do you think it takes enjoying the process before you build a business? Do you even want to build a business? Do you have to want to do the thing to build a business, or no? If you're just driven to build a business, you don't care what it is.
I think it's both. Like for me, like
if a good bakery opportunity came up for you, would you take it?
No. Like I think it's always had to be like a mix of both. Like I think like for a while I was like, oh, tech is like, I've had like different like shiny object syndrome moments, right? And like when I was building out my career, I was like, oh yeah, I think I should move into tech because that's where everything's going. But ultimately I was like, no, like I love designing and building and seeing things, like being made in real life. So like I knew this is like what I want for myself. And then like building a business on the passion that I have, I think is ultimately, yeah.
So what was the draw to tech for you? Just you saw the world progressing that way? You saw how much money people were making? What was it?
Yeah, a bit of that. And also like architecture is such a like ancient practice. And it's so ingrained in like the processes are so like, I don't know, so old, like so resistant to change. And there's a lot of opportunity to, I guess, disrupt the industry. But in some ways, it's very difficult because it's such an old industry. It's very resistant to that change. The reason where I saw tech is like, yeah, tons of opportunity to leverage technology in the space. How that happens could be so many different ways. But, even thinking about AI, it's just like, how do we use AI to like disrupt the industry entirely? I don't know, but like I think there's plenty of opportunity, and it'd be kind of a mistake to think otherwise.
Yeah, AI is just disrupting everything.
Yeah.
I feel like AI is that new tech shiny object syndrome where everyone wants to build an AI and do AI right now.
Yeah,
that is the hot thing for good reason. I mean, it is disrupting literally everything.
Yeah, but I think a lot of, I guess I'm not the AI expert, but my impression is there's a good number of AI businesses that are kind of just like a layer on ChatGPT, and those aren't legitimate like businesses. I think there's a term, but I forget that. The ability to disrupt that business, maybe disrupt's the wrong word, but like to essentially like create a replicate of that business is just so easy. Like those businesses won't last, right? Companies that use AI to like truly create something of value and leverage the technology and create something that's like unique and like different, I think that will have longevity. Because in the same way that right now you can use AI to create a business really fast, someone easily could replicate that and destroy you, right? So as good as it is, it could have like the other side to it. But ultimately, I think like the companies using AI to bring value will like remain.
Do you think about your own business and how you could protect yourself from AI and that disruption happening to you? How to build a moat around you, or if there already naturally is a moat, do you think about that stuff?
Yeah. I think
we all think about it a little bit. Like
for sure. Like I do think about like, oh, I could get replaced. Right? Like and where's the first opportunity to get replaced? So in some ways, like thinking about technology is a way to like get ahead of it before I get replaced. I'm gonna like use the technology so that I can leverage it rather
somebody else.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's not me trying to replace someone else per se. It's more like I'm trying to not get replaced.
It's a dog eat dog world out there,
I
man.
guess so, yeah. So I do think about like different avenues to leverage technology in our business so that we don't get replaced, or at the very least, I don't honestly think AI is going to fully replace architecture, but it could definitely be used to make the process better, quicker. Like I see it as another tool. But yeah, like we're already looking at technology to even like look at the assessment of properties. So I think I mentioned to you, like, can you type in an address and then from there pull in data that's openly available and then say, okay, you're eligible for an accessory dwelling unit, like a garden suite. And then we can tell you this is how much you can build. And then eventually we can give you more stats into this. Like, okay, this is what you can do. Future ideas I had is like, then could you leverage that? And then we could come up with like a pre-design or use AI to like generate the designs. And then we could sell you that right away. So right away, we determine if it's feasible, give you a design or let you like generate that design with AI and then sell you that design. And then as the architect, I can just help you execute. Get you the permit.
And is this something you're doing now?
Yeah, the first phase.
Okay.
Like, but because like I guess with any technology, it could go so many different ways. So we're just building like an MVP of like, okay, type in the address, see if it's possible, and then from there we're gonna be able to analyze different statistics of like how big can you build and is it a 1-story, 2-story, that kind of thing. So over time, I think we're going to hopefully build more features out.
And this is you and your team?
Well, me and my partner. So my partner's a software developer, so conveniently I've roped him into this. And yeah, I think I was like one day like, oh, this tool just needs to exist because the zoning and building code is just a set of rules. I was telling him. So I was like, it's all in my head right now. But like, who's to say if I knew how to code, I could just input all these sets of rules, and then you just put the data. Like in theory, I was like, this should exist already because it's just a rule book, and I'm an like expert in the rule book, but like I could be replaced by like an AI because like I'm not an AI could probably know the rules better than me
in terms of regurgitating the rule book at least.
Yeah, or even assessing.
Sure.
Assessing what's possible.
Yeah. So why not leverage it for yourself? Build that efficiency into your business.
Exactly.
And deliver a faster, better product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we're looking at integrating technology at the very least. I wouldn't say it's AI. I think maybe the plan generation could be the AI part. But I guess I'm not forcing the AI into it just because it's like a sexy idea right now. But I think there will be different opportunities to leverage it.
No, I think it makes total sense. I think you should use it in every aspect of your business that you possibly can.
Yeah.
Or your career, whatever you're doing, because it's so powerful. Like it's just makes you 10 times more efficient.
Exactly. Yeah. At the very least, it's a tool for us to like leverage and make ourselves better. But yeah, there's just so many different possibilities, whether it's like chat agents or customer service or like plan generation. And I think there's a place for it. Like some architects and creatives would say, like that's kind of getting in the way of like creativity or like, there's
always going to be those people, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. But I think it's not to say custom home creation from like a designer or architect isn't going to exist. I think there'll always be a place where somebody wants like, hey, I want to hire you to like create exactly what I want, and like hitting refresh on the AI is not going to like get them the design. Like it's like for more mundane examples, like if I'm designing a bathroom, like how many options are you going to give me in terms of the bathroom layout? Like you don't need an architect for that. It's like the toilet is here, the bathtub is there. Like you could just hit refresh a couple of times and here's like 3 layouts, right?
Yeah,
like
you could ask me, I'll tell you.
Yeah, exactly. So I think those mundane tasks, like sure, let AI replace that and like
build a toilet chatbot.
Yeah, exactly. How much flush do you want? I
high flush.
Rona.
We all want the high flush.
Yeah, I worked at Rona for a bit, so I have to tell people like, oh, this is like the power of the flush, and this is the surface area of like. I was like advertising like different features of the toilet. So anyways,
my God. I would say, look, buy the high flush. Don't bother with those low flushes. Yeah. You're gonna thank me later.
Yeah, exactly. But you bringing that up just brings me back to what essentially I'm like selling toilets. Like these are all the features.
Wow, you really do love building. You worked at Rona.
Yeah, I worked at Rona.
Was that part of your career path? That was a stepping stone, or you're just like, hey, I want to learn more about building, or I want to be in this environment?
It was a high school co-op. So
really?
Yeah, like my sister was at Waterloo and they have a like great co-op program. So then they got me thinking like, oh, I got to get a co-op, right? I got to get a job. And then my high school conveniently was doing co-ops, but you'd essentially have to work for free for a company. And then I told them I wanted to be like in design and architecture. So then they hooked me up with a placement at Rona. So I worked there for free for a month and then I got a job there after. And then I was a kitchen designer. But then the kitchen department was adjacent to the plumbing department. So I ended up learning a lot about plumbing and like toilets and the different features of that. So yeah, I could sell people on like plumbing, power and all that.
All the jargon.
Yeah.
Wow. So you knew from high school that you wanted to be in design and architecture.
Kind of. I think architecture is such a like expansive industry, like interesting field that I don't think I quite understood what it meant to like learn about architecture, because if you dive into it more, it's a lot of actually philosophical, at least the education I had, like very philosophical conversations, thinking about like the social, the cultural, and also like not really the financial implications, but obviously in the real world there are financial implications, but like what does it mean to build? like looking back at history, like building is a part of like political power or control, or like the different ways that comes into the conversation. So you're like, oh, like I just wanted to like design a house, and then now I've come into this whole conversation of like how do people live and questioning life and all these like social kind of philosophical conversations. Like, oh, like I've like now opened up a can of worms of like things to think about. Yeah.
And then meanwhile, real estate investors are like
very practical. Yeah.
Get me the highest rents and the cheapest build possible.
Yeah, exactly. So in some ways it can be simpler to kind of think with like numbers and that kind of thing, versus like you could imagine in a very like creative project, you're really thinking about like, say like a retail project. It's like, what does it mean to buy in today's world? And if you're working with a brand that's trying to be cutting edge, it's like, okay, like now we're rethinking the purchasing process, the experience. What does it mean to be a real retail space today? And how do you physically embody that in a building? And that whole conversation is like something you need to unpack before you even like design the space.
Wow.
So then it's more of like I don't know, philosophical conversation, strategic conversation, which is very interesting, but you need to unpack all of that before you even thinking about like the physical design. And that's where it can get really interesting. And I think there's a lot of value in that, but on paper, sometimes you can't really put a number to it.
Right? Yeah. So did you feel like your education prepared you well for that type of creative work? Because you have to think about what it means and how it makes people feel and what you're trying to convey.
Yes. Yeah, I think my education in architecture is more in that realm, like thinking about space. Like even designing a house in architecture school is not just like designing a regular house and like the practicalities of it. It's like questioning, how do people live? Should we live this way? Like why do we live this way? Is there another way to live? And kind of like
getting pissed off just hearing all
yeah. And you're like, oh, the creatives, like, what? So, like you sleep in the bedroom.
Shut up! Tell me what I need to build here.
Yeah. It's like no, you're not. Like in a way, so you're not allowed to think of it too practically. You have to like
where's the bed? Where's the toilet?
Yeah. You have to go down this whole path of like searching for yourself, right? Like,
you're making me feel depressed. I need some answers here.
Yeah. So it's kind of. It's fun. It's always about that. It's just like, what is the like larger conversation we're having, and then designing something that questions that.
So how does this podcast studio make you feel?
I don't know. I think it has like a.
You can be honest.
I know. Like, I think it has a certain vibe of it. It has like it's very masculine. I would say like if it has, I don't know. That's like a hard question to ask, actually. Like
we need to feminize it here.
Yeah, I don't think you have to, but
put some flowers on the table, balance it out, get some yin and yang in here.
Yeah, it's
two brothers, right?
It reminds me of this YouTube channel, it's like CoffeeZilla. Yeah, he's like very like dark, moody, like has like a darker ambience, like has like this mystery kind of like a certain, that's the lighting that kind of gives off.
Yeah, interesting. All right, I'll have to tell Tom and Nick.
Yeah, you're giving like CoffeeZilla vibes.
Yeah, CoffeeZilla, dark masculine vibes here.
Yeah, because like
supposed to be positive, living life on your terms.
Oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, like that's what the design kind of would unpack. Like if you were to ask me to design like this podcast studio, we'd have to have like a larger conversation of like, okay, what kind of feelings do you want people to have when they enter the space? What are you trying to like capture if it's like something uplifting and like something that's well,
oh my God. I'm really just now realizing the value that you bring to the table to real estate investors because they're like, look, I have only $200,000 to get this done.
Yeah.
I need to get it done. I need these numbers.
Yeah.
Show me how to do it. Let's get it done.
Yeah. And we can.
Let's make them feel like they want to rent it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's usually the goal. But usually I ask like, what kind of conversation do you want us to have? Like, because like a lot of investors that like, I don't want to have this like flowery talk about like what are my design objectives and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you want to go down that path, it's like, definitely, right?
Yeah,
like
your game.
Yeah, it's like if the podcast studio, if you're saying like, oh, how do you want people to feel? It's like, okay, let's have that conversation, right? And then it's like, if that's what we're kind of targeting, then I'd say, okay, we actually want to shift in terms of the design approach to something like this instead.
Yeah. As a millennial, how do you feel about life as a millennial, the traditional career path, investing as a millennial, living in Toronto as a millennial? Like, just how do you think things are kind of shaping up for our generation and what it means to thrive in today's world?
Yeah, that's tough. I think it's very tough to be a millennial. Obviously I'm biased, but like, I think that's kind of what put me on this path, to be honest. Like, got the education, like, my first job coming out of undergrad, I was getting paid under 40K. And I was thinking, I was trying to negotiate that. I was like, can you at least give me $40,000? And they're like, no. I was like, this is less than I was making as like a co-op student in some of the jobs I had. And they're like, no, this is all we're going to give you. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm just going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not going to make a difference. I just wanted the job. And then like, I'd figure out like other opportunities. Right. But like, if I was in the same path of like working a 9 to 5, like, I don't know how people live. Like, I think it's just not really possible. Like, so I guess all of that to say is like, I think working a job and starting a side hustle and like building a business was like not an option. Like, it just had to be, because if I was going to survive, especially in Toronto, like, it just, there was no other way, you know, like, and that's where it's kind of troubling. And you're like, my parents, like, they worked like blue collar jobs, like decent, like 9 to 5 jobs, and they could support a family of 4. Mm-hmm. And that's like not possible now. Like, I don't even understand. Yeah.
You could just work at a grocery store as a grocery clerk and own a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home.
I know.
And have 2 kids and a dog and go camping twice a year and take a vacation and work as a grocery clerk.
Yeah.
And just have a normal job and a good pace of life and not really a high stress environment.
Yeah.
And an affordable home, an affordable mortgage. And that was fully possible within 20, 30, 40 years ago, our parents' generation.
Yeah.
And can you imagine now being that same grocery clerk? And it's like, not only can you not afford the house, you are struggling with rent itself. And then let alone having a family.
I know. It's insane. So like, when people talk about like, why aren't people in our generation having like kids as much? It's a lot of it is a financial thing. It's like, can you even support having a child? Like, do you make enough money? And like, do you have other concerns in mind? But yeah, going back to your question, it's like, I think going on this journey is kind of like a necessity in my mind, let alone where the economy is going, AI coming for your job potentially, right? It's like, if you're not going down this path, educating yourself, getting new skills, starting a side hustle, starting a business, like, I think threats just coming on all sides, right? Like, for me, it's like not an option. Like, you have to do this.
Yeah. Like backs against the wall.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it's kind of, yeah, I think it goes back to like a lot of what Rockstar talks about, like, you know, like your life on your terms. But I think as a millennial going through like school and then a job, and I was like, okay, well, if I ask myself, like, living life on my terms is like just having maybe like that basic lifestyle. It's like, I want a house and I want a vacation and I don't want to feel like I'm like scraping every penny. Is like, okay, so for me to live life on my terms as a millennial, to maybe live the life my parents had, I essentially have to like bust my ass to live that life. And that's the reality of it.
Yeah. Like, it's not a traditionally ambitious lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. And then let alone I do want to have like a more ambitious lifestyle, then I have to work like 4 times as hard or like even much harder than that. Yeah. So I think for me, I see it as like a necessity. And I feel like every generation, you know, feels that way. It's like, I know I think about like, are we getting older? And then is like Gen Z like having, you know, the same thoughts of like, nobody knows how hard it is for us. And then like millennials will be like, oh, you're not working as hard as me, in the same way as like say boomers, I guess the classic is like, oh, when I bought a house, the interest rates were like 20%. And then the argument against them is like, well, where's your housing cost? Like $1 million?
And the house was 20 grand.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not really relevant here.
It was like 2 times salary, 3 times salary.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm obviously on the millennial side of the argument. Like, no, it wasn't more difficult. But like, I wonder if now, like, the next generation comes, is like Gen Z gonna have it harder than us, and then we'll be like in the same way or similar way of like the boomers being like, no, it's difficult. Like, did you have to buy $1 million house and deal with this? I don't know. Anyways,
yeah. No, I know what you mean. I think every generation thinks they're like tougher and harder than the one below it.
Yeah.
In the case of Gen Z, I don't think so. I think they have it just tougher.
Oh yeah.
Like, what has gotten better?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, the ability to start a TikTok and dance your way to fame, like, sure.
Well, they have AI, maybe. So that's.
But I mean, we all have AI. But I mean, they're more digitally native. Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoop-de-doo. So are millennials.
Yes. Yeah.
But at least a bunch of millennials had a chance to buy a home.
That's true.
To get into the housing market early, to buy some assets.
Yeah, I agree. So I think generally I agree Gen Z probably has it harder because at least within our lifetime, I think, and that's what's so tough on millennials, is like you probably had the opportunity and then saw it slip away. And like, that's the worst. Like if you never saw the opportunity, it's like, oh, I never had it, never could have, whatever.
You don't have the expectations.
Yeah.
I think about that often. I think it's just a resetting of expectations because we grew up and it was like, well, you just expected like a baseline kind of basic middle class lifestyle. And if you wanted more than that, you knew you were going to have to work for it. Sure. You accepted that agreement. But then when that middle class lifestyle was kind of ripped out of your hands, even despite you working as hard as you possibly could.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like not your fault. Like you did everything you could. You have that expectation. It's like, well, that's been ripped away. And then you become kind of bitter and resentful about that. Like, what the hell? How come they had it and I didn't have it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then for some people or looking in, it'd be like, well, I don't have any, I don't feel sorry for you because you did have the opportunity and then you didn't take advantage of it, right? So then it's like,
that's, I guess, like the conservative pull up your bootstraps.
Yeah.
And it's like, sure.
But who would have known it'd be like, this unaffordable.
Yeah, I didn't know I had 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 3 years out of high school to buy 4 homes and make it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's the crazy part. But I think that's what's the most unfortunate thing with the millennial generation is like seeing that taken away from you, almost like that dream was attainable in like maybe the earlier part, depending on like which part of the millennial generation you are. And then, it being kind of like taken away from you. And I feel like I experienced that moment. Like I bought my first place in Kitchener, like right out of university. And like, that's so unthinkable now. And I bought it at like 200-ish, like low 200s. Mm-hmm. And I bought it at like, as much as I complain about like, oh, I was making less than 40K, I could still buy a house, which is like even insane to think about now. And then in the matter of like 5 years, that's like crazy, Yeah. So it went from like being able to buy my first place with like a basic job, like an entry-level job, to like that's a crazy ask now.
Crazy concept. Yeah, and it happened so quick.
Yes.
So quick. COVID had really accelerated it.
Exactly.
But it was already happening really quickly.
For sure.
Like the wealth divide, the low rates juicing up assets, wage earners getting crushed, savers getting crushed. Like if you were going through high school, university, like just starting your life, like you didn't have a chance unless you got in maybe super early. Depends on your generation. But that's why I look at Gen Z now and I'm like, oh man, like.
Yeah, but at least they have a heads up. Maybe that's the bright side of it.
Yeah,
like
lower
they know.
Expectations. Well, their parents would be Gen X. Gen X was already getting squeezed compared to boomers, I'd say.
Yeah.
So they probably still do have some expectations, right?
Gen Z?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Like if you're living in Toronto, I think you just know like the uphill battle you have to, like you're buying at $1 million. So somehow you're going to come up with $200,000. So if that's the target, at least it's like, and that's a moving target, I guess, but like you need to have that in the back of your mind. Like how are you going to come up with $200,000 if you do think about owning a house?
Yeah. Which forces you to be like, well, that's not going to happen. So I need to like look at different avenues of living my life. Like,
Yeah, or like
how can I
fourplex.
make it work?
That's like fourplex will be the new starter home, maybe. Like you want to own, but you're going to leverage the 3 other units and get the rental income there. And then...
Yeah, but you still need the down payment for that fourplex.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, I don't know, you have to be more savvy. And like, that's where, like, if you start thinking this way, it's good. Because then your gears are turning of like, okay, so I still need this down payment. What am I going to do for this down payment? I'm not going to be working a 9-to-5 job for that. So like, what am I going to, like that's the question. Like, what am I going to do to like get this money?
I don't know. I just feel like if the game is rigged against you, don't play the game. It's almost
How do you not play the game?
Enter Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
I think there's different avenues, different areas of the world that are blowing up, and you should look into those different avenues, different ways of living your life. I think the world we grew up in is gone.
Yeah.
I think it's no more.
But I think it's similar then. Like in the same way that, let's say Toronto was on the table and then investors were investing in like Hamilton, Niagara. Now people maybe have to leverage it on like a global scale. So it's like, okay, if I'm going to live in Toronto, like maybe that's the end goal, let's say, but like now I got to go to another country. It's not about like going next door an hour. It's like I have to go to this other country and like build that, and then maybe I'll come back.
Yeah, or take advantage of remote work.
Yeah.
Find up a Toronto business paying you a high salary, and then go move to a small town where you can afford to live better.
Yeah.
Right? There are different avenues, and you got to leverage, I think, these areas of the economy that are opening up. New areas of saving and wealth, Bitcoin, and then new ways of earning income and living, remote, different countries, nomad lifestyle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still such a small percentage of people that can do that, though.
It's true. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Easier said than done. What if you're working at Rona in high school and you're passionate about architecture and you want to be an architect and you graduate and you're making the 40K, but 40K buys you a lot less than 40K did even 5-10 years ago.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And I have no answers to. I think I was making $13 an hour. I was like, at the time, minimum wage was like $6 something. I was like, I'm making the best money ever. Like I thought I was like on top of the world. Now, I don't. It's tough. Like I wouldn't have any answers other than like it's just tougher these days than when like we were growing up even.
Mm-hmm. So just figure it out.
I don't know. Like I think there's a lot of opportunity.
You're
like,
somebody that is thriving, I would say, given the circumstances. And you started early, which really helps. You got into real estate young, which really helped you build an asset base and then also launch kind of a career. Yeah. But you're just, to me, are a great example of somebody that's figuring it out despite it. And even if you maybe have to work 2 times, 3 times as hard and start your own business and run your own business and buy the property and do the reno and hang the drywall and do all the stuff your parents had to do, like you're like, well, what the hell is my choice? And so you're kind of doubling down on it. And I respect it, but it also, I'm like, well, is it a model that other people can replicate for themselves? If they want a middle-class lifestyle, live life on your terms.
I don't know. I don't know the answer. Like for me, it's like, it comes down to, I enjoy like doing all the things. So like I work like a ton of hours, let's say, but like it's exactly what I'd be doing. I remember I had this moment like at my property in Kitchener, and I was like hanging the drywall and doing all that work. I was like, man, I've like soot on my face, and I was like, this looks like a disaster. And this is like after working my like 9-to-5 job, I went there to renovate. But then I sat down, I had a moment, I was like, this is exactly what I want to be doing, like I don't know if it's making any money. Like I wasn't like very sophisticated at that point, but I was like, I think this is it, and I think that's ultimately what drives it all. Is like, even if this wasn't like making money as a business, like I think I'd love designing and building and like creating things. So I think part of that is that, it's like finding what you enjoy doing so that you're willing to put in the long hours and time into it, and then just enjoying the process. And you haven't burned out from doing all of this? I think about that. Am I burning it? Sometimes I feel like I might be burning out. And then I've heard a podcast where there's like a high performing burnout, like people experiencing burnout, but then there's still high performers, which can cause further burnout. I guess that's not really answering your question, but I I don't think so. Maybe. So I guess I question either I'm not burning out or I'm a high performing person that's burning out. And I'm denying the fact that I'm burning out.
Yeah.
But so far I'm like just enjoying everything I'm doing. So yeah. So
it doesn't sound like you're burning out.
So yeah.
No,
but I probably do need a vacation if I think about it. Yeah. You know, like I think about the best time you need a vacation is probably when you don't think you want a vacation. Like, so I think like I just want to work on the business, but I probably should get a vacation because I'm like so driven in the business that I probably need a moment to like step back.
Yeah, and that perspective could help, right?
Exactly.
Because your brain space opens up.
Exactly, yeah.
All of a sudden you have a different perspective on things. It's weird how that happens. Get so focused on things, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm due for that, some travel, some vacation, but at the very moment I'm just like enjoying what I'm doing. So
yeah, and your partner you mentioned is a software developer? Yeah,
he's a software developer. So yeah, like very different worlds. I kind of like it that way so that we're not always talking about like real estate. I'm just imagining like if I was with somebody who's like constantly talking about real estate, then we'd always be talking about real estate versus like I'm already like he's already absorbed all like the real estate and architecture like lingo from like me like yapping on about like this deal and that deal, VTB or whatever. So it's kind of nice that he's in something totally different.
Yeah. That's cool. Okay. What else are you doing? You're a professor.
Yes.
So what's that? Can you explain that?
Yeah, so I teach architecture and interior design at OCAD University in Conestoga.
And how did you get that gig?
I just applied to it. So out of my master's degree, out of architecture school, I saw an opening at OCAD, and then I just started teaching on the side. And then eventually, there's a position that opened up at Conestoga. I applied for that position. And yeah, teaching allows me to like stretch that like design muscle in a different way. It's like one thing to know something. It's another thing to teach somebody else what you know.
Totally.
So then you like learn it twice.
Yes.
And so that's been interesting. But yeah, we'll see how long that lasts, because I think at a certain point the business might kind of
demand more of you.
Yeah, exactly. Demand more of me, and I might have to hang that up, but we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool. I think you're a model of just working at whatever opportunity presents itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in some ways, I think now it's kind of at the point of like needing to say no to certain opportunities to like focus on what like your core business is or what you want to like focus on personally.
And were you just saying yes to everything before?
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of like I'll do this and I'll try that, and you know, like I think that's where I got to see what I liked, because I think like in school and like out of school, I was almost like troubled that like I didn't know where I was going to land, you know? And I was like, I need to know like where's my career path, and where's this all leading? And if I didn't know, and if this is it, you know, always thinking about, is this it? You know, and like that being like troubling to me. And I think I took the approach at a certain point of like, okay, well, if I don't know, I need to try everything until I'm like, okay, don't like that, don't like that, don't like that. And then it's like a process of elimination. And then I kind of got to this point of like, okay, I kind of enjoy these things to a certain degree. And then like, if you have the ability of choice, then you can like narrow down to like, okay, I can say no to this. But I think that's how it kind of landed. It was just like saying yes to everything to figure out what I truly wanted to do.
Yeah. Throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember, I think there's this book. It was, I'm butchering it, but it's like, be so good that.
Oh, so good that they can't ignore you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So good you can. So like going through that process of like, I think there's a lot of stuff I didn't enjoy, but like a lot of it, like you had to just like work through it, and then like you got to the good stuff, you know, and like understanding a bit of that threshold of like, do I truly not enjoy this, or like, is this something I just need to like work through, and then I'm getting to the enjoyable part, you know, and learning through that process of like, and now I think I can begin to say like no to certain things to focus on like what I'm truly passionate about.
For me, it's always enjoyable when the check lands. Then I'm like, oh, I enjoy this.
Yeah.
Despite hating stuff leading up to that check landing.
But then you need the next hit.
Yeah, it's like a little dopamine hit.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, where's the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that with tenant placement. Christina, my partner, is always making fun of me. She's like
next one.
It's like you hate it, and then you know you get the
Not so
tenant.
bad.
Yeah, you start it out, and then you're like you love it, and then you hate it, and then you love it.
Yeah.
Like a roller coaster.
I feel like that's
emotion.
entrepreneurship. So you're like straight in the path of the roller coaster ride.
Yeah, totally. Okay, cool. Where can people follow your journey, check you out, learn more about you, what you're up to? Share away.
Sure, yeah. On Instagram, you can find me at BuildX Lab. You can find more project examples, stuff we're working on our website. So that's buildxdesign.ca. And about that tech platform I mentioned, about like typing your address and then seeing if you're eligible for an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. We're going to launch that soon, but hoping people can sign up for early access. So I'll share the link and hopefully you can like post it below for anyone who's interested.
Sure. So it's at that link. Is it also going to be on your website?
Yeah, you can find it on my website. I think like check out this new tool. You can click on it there.
Okay.
But I can send the direct link too.
And if someone wants to contact you just through the website? Or
Yeah,
your
through the
Instagram?
website, there's a kind of contact form. Or through Instagram. That works too.
Okay. Thanks, Victoria. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. We'll finish those YouTube videos and we'll do another podcast 3-4 years from now. We'll see where you're at.
Okay. Yeah. Good check-in. And we're going to go viral again, eh?
Yeah. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks again.